does music play a large role in trauma recovery?
Absolutely. You saw me in my car rolling on. I'm listening to some gospel. I'm listening to some jazz, even soothing music to go to sleep by, just creating those safe spaces for ourselves. Trauma also, it divides you from taking care of yourself because you become a people pleaser seeking out that safety.
Liz Blanding is a wellness coach, podcast host, and trauma recovery advocate, helping survivors heal mind, body, and spirit through Oasis Wellness and the Get Trauma Informed podcast.
And because trauma is progressive, it's like old rotten food just sitting inside of you. And then something happens, something minor, and all of a sudden you just went into a rage and you have no idea why because you're acting out of character. Because that trauma was so progressive, it did not go away no matter how much we deny it or swallow it. But one day it erupts.
Hey everybody, this is Ryan Van Ornum, and we are back with another edition of Scaling Up Success podcast powered by Cynergists. Cynergist is your scalable operations company that helps you grow your business at a fraction of the cost. Check it out at cynergist.com. And today I have Dr. Liz Blanding. How are you today, ma'am?
I am doing well. I'm excited to be here. How are you?
Oh, I'm so excited to hear your story. I know about you. I've had conversations with you. I got your book behind me here, and I'm just eager to jump into this thing today. So, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
All right. So, first of all, let's tell the audience a little bit about your origin story. Where did you come from and how did you get into being a trauma recovery coach?
Wow. Okay. So, phew, it's actually been my life story. I had no idea the effects that trauma had on me or that it was even a thing, actually, until I was going about life being busy and I was in a car accident. And in the car accident is when I actually, it's sort of a I mean, it's a long story, but in order to make the story a little bit shorter, I'll give you a little bit about it. So, in the car accident, at that time, I was a busy mom in real estate, had no idea about naturopathic medicine or any of those things, and I was hit, was hydroplaned into, and ended up in on the top of the hill in a tree.
Oh my.
And yeah, that was wow, what a day. I said it was a new birth date because at the time when something like that is happening to you, you don't realize that it's actually sometimes you hit a tree, but it's helping you to turn your life around into the direction and the purpose in which you were actually designed. You may not see it at that time, which I didn't see it at that time, but fast forwarding, as I went through 2 years of what I call dating my doctors, they said, okay, this is the bottom line. You've gone through all types of therapies. And, if you don't get double knee replacement surgery, you are going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. Now, I'm a single divorced mom saying, no way. I had a daughter in college and twins at home. There's no way this is my destiny. So I went to work. I started learning about naturopathic medicine. I learned about the different herbs and I started learning. And as I started learning, I found a new passion. But what I found is that it wasn't just the accident physically, it was psychologically, it was I'll say mind, body, spirit, and soul. And as you start to heal, you realize that there's deeper levels of recovery. And so jumping into trauma recovery was because I was really trying to find help for myself. I was trying to find support for myself. And once I got into trauma recovery and started peeling off all these layers of onion, I said, oh my gosh, this with the CDC stating that 70 to 80% of our population have suffered trauma, then I jumped in to find my purpose.
Man, that is an incredible story. And it shows your resolve. It shows your perseverance to overcome so many obstacles. And I'm sure, there's so many more, more layers to that story as well. We just thank you so much for sharing that and being so open. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, one of the things, how did you stay motivated during those tough times to continue to build something, that maybe you didn't even know where it was going at that time or how you're going to get there, but you stayed motivated, you stayed pushing through. Where does that come from? Where does that drive come from?
It was two things. It was my faith in God because I believed that He said, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And that I held on to. And then I looked at these little children, right? I had twins at home and a daughter in college. I kept their faces in front of me. Like they were my motivating factor, they are my gifts. So I have to be here for my gifts. And that's what I kept telling my doctors. This is not my destiny. And they kept telling me over and over again, if you don't accept where you are, you're not going to get better. And I said, if I accept where I am, I'm not going to get better.
Man, that's a bad date. You said you were dating those doctors and they just kept trying to throw the haterade on you and you just kept fighting through it, man. I love that about you. And it shows that you have no quit and it shows that you're gonna find a way to get where you want to be. So props to you on that. That's incredible. And you are a living example of, overcoming every single setback and thriving in that way of moving forward. Amazing, amazing.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So as you've been growing out your coaching side of the business, like where is this taking you? Have you seen like these unforeseen, like pretty cool opportunities that have came along the way?
Absolutely. Well, I guess one of the things too, as I started my recovery journey, other people asked what was I doing because they saw a glow. They saw me start to, wake up and feel good and move and all these other things. So as I went into the coaching part of it, being able to see other people succeed in their like understanding what trauma is all about, because most of us don't even know, or we're not even aware that we're living life through this kaleidoscope. You know how when you were a kid and we looked at the kaleidoscopes and everything was kind of shattered? Well,
Yeah.
that's what trauma looks like, right? We're looking at it through that trauma lens. So as I started to walk and more people are getting interested in wait, as I started unfolding the classes and the courses and sharing it with other people, I started to see them wake up from their trauma. And it's kind of like I say, the movie The Wiz with Diana Ross and Michael Jackson, how
Hmm.
they're in this little parlor, and when the wicked witch goes away, which is the trauma, they all start peeling off this mask and they say, "Ooh, can you feel a brighter day?" And that's what's happening. As we're starting to push this message, more and more people are starting to become aware that no, not only personal trauma recovery is important, but also trauma recovery in leadership. So I'm noticing more churches are now seeking, how do we help our people to understand and become better trauma informed leaders?
I found something very interesting what you were talking about, and it goes back to a study that I heard about was that even our surroundings can take in the negativity and the trauma that we have. And what they did is they would have people like they had bottles of water in two different places. Okay, one was like said negative energy. It was screamed at. It was talked down to. It was berated. Like you're yelling at these bottles of water. And then the other one was given, positive energy, positive music, this kind of stuff on the backside of it all. And both, when they froze, they found that the negative water bottles actually froze in jagged and much more like sporadic type of patterns. And the positive energy water bottles, those ones were frozen and they were just beautiful in the way that it actually, froze, and you can actually see it under a microscope. It was incredible, just the power that we have with our emotional mindset as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you just said because it's so true as far as the positive energy, and just being able to tell yourself, like, I believe had I listened and heard that this is your destiny, I would not have been able to do all of the things that I've been able to accomplish. And still so many more things to accomplish, so many more people to make aware of what's happening with trauma. And trauma does affect you negatively. It puts that fear in your system, down to your cells.
Man, and it's so crazy when you get down to the cellular level, you're actually almost poisoning yourself with negativity. And I just find that just a fascinating understanding of how the human body works and how you can actually repair your own, and you're a living example because of it. So, absolutely. I love that. I love that. So As a trauma coach, can you explain, how like you help people, because you're a living example of it, but how you help people overcome that trauma bond that they may have with certain aspects of their own life and their own experiences?
Right. Well, becoming aware of it is one thing because we can keep operating in the same habit over and over and over again. And if we're expecting a different result, of course, that's insanity. So I help them by helping them to go back to like the roots of where this trauma began. And so oftentimes, like I said, we're not even aware. But when you look at a healthy tree and you look at an unhealthy tree, and then we go down to the roots of it, and then we start to peel off how do you operate? Do you operate in fear? Is everything you're always waiting for the next shoe to drop? And the reason I think I can be so successful, have been successful with helping my clients or my students, is because it's peer to peer. So when they understand, and by me being so transparent, and it didn't happen overnight for me. It took a long time, many, many years for me to be able to be open and transparent and talk about some of the devastating traumas that I went through starting in the womb. And when you talk about wound trauma, that's deep. But then you start realizing when you start talking about your story, how many people suffered wound trauma where their mind, body, spirit, and soul didn't come together like everybody else's. So they didn't really get a fighting chance from the womb. And then as you go through, like for me, it was complex PTSD. So it was trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, unresolved. Because if you don't know it's there, or if your parents don't know it's there, and you continue and you walk through life, you're going to keep walking through life, and life is going to happen, but it's going to affect you differently. So I help people to really understand. And I think that's the difference in coaching. And I have nothing against therapy because sometimes we need therapy, coaching, psychiatrists, we need all of it. But coaching is a very, very integral part, especially when you are working with somebody peer to peer, when you can really say, I understand.
I love that. I love that. So as as you're growing out this, like do you feel like our social environment in the last like 10 years or so has really been more accepting of this? When I was growing up, it was pretty much just like swallow it, push it all down, suppress it all. Do you feel like this is coming more open and prevalent as an opportunity for people to get help?
Absolutely, I do. Absolutely. I think more so now because people are starting to say enough is enough, and it's just too much. And I think as we are starting to push the message of becoming aware, and then also of becoming trauma informed, because oftentimes our leaders don't understand the trauma, so they either hide from it, or they don't address it, so then they inadvertently re-traumatize a person that's looking for safety, because what trauma does, it takes away our sense of safety. So if you're taking away that sense of safety, but you're coming into an environment where people are not aware, then they're going to do things that are going to cause you to feel unsafe. So I think with the need and the desire for us to feel more safe, for us to, just different things are becoming more acceptable for us to talk about it. And then when you hear like myself, my voice saying, look, this is what trauma looks like, and oftentimes this is one huge point. The optics of a person does not determine how healed, whole, or how they are on the inside, right? So they can be walking around all made up and tie up to the neck and still have all this trauma on the inside, and they go home lonely inside and suffering because they haven't heard a voice that says, no, there is help. You're broken, but you can be repaired. Something broke inside of you. Trauma happened. I say trauma is not your fault. Recovery is your responsibility.
Right, right. I mean, a lot of times it could, like you said, it was in the womb, it could have been as a child. Like, you know, it's it's so difficult to understand where a lot of this stuff may be coming from, but and you can't, in the way I can, you can't say woe was me. You have to be able to like engage it and be able to move forward from it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you said it, and it coming out of denial.
Right.
Because oftentimes we deny it, we swallow it, like you said before. And because trauma is progressive, it's like old rotten food just sitting inside of you. And then something happens, something minor, where somebody maybe cut you off in the grocery store with their basket. And all of a sudden you just went into a rage and you have no idea why, because you're acting out of character. Because that trauma was so progressive, it did not go away no matter how much we deny it or swallow it. It doesn't go away. But one day it erupts and there you have a situation. So I think, yes, once we become aware of it, then we can start taking the necessary steps to do something about it.
Man, when you rage out and you're on the baking aisle in the Safeway, that's when you need Dr. Liz's help. You're like, we have a cleanup on aisle 6 because of a rage monster. We definitely need your help.
Absolutely. For
I,
sure. For
I,
sure.
I love that. I love that. So as people are, like, how is this something that do you find that it takes time for people to come and open up to you, or is it like that do you feel like that there's some people that just come and like are an open book? Like how, is it okay to like, does it take time to build that relationship and foster when you're working through coaching with your clients?
It does. It takes time for that, but also I say everybody's journey to recovery is just as different and unique as their fingerprint. So somebody might be at a point of just exhausted. I need help. And then they'll start to open up and they'll right away. And then some people they have to build that because there's no sense of safety. So there's no safe people. So and because I've been hurt time and time again, then talking to you about it, why would I tell you this? You know what I'm saying? Especially for families that have been taught you keep your stuff at home. You keep your stuff at home, you deal with it, what have you. And that's where I came from. You don't talk about your stuff.
Right.
So imagine what my family was like when I got out here and started talking about my stuff. They're like, what are you doing? Frantically, like, stop it. You can't do this. But I say,
Right.
if you keep it in, you get sick. You get sicker because it's still there. It doesn't go away. So yeah, and both sides have people that will come and they'll come into class and they'll talk right away. And then you have some that'll come into class and it'll be 9 weeks. We have a 12-week program. So 9 weeks, then you'll see the light start coming on. But then they'll say, wow, I didn't know that was a trauma. I suffered trauma from the womb too, or some situation where they can identify. And that's why I love doing the group sessions because we provide a safe space. And so my voice, they may not hear my voice, but they'll hear your voice, or they'll hear somebody else's voice, and then they'll connect.
Talk about your services. Are they online? Are they in person? How does one get help with you?
Okay, so there are several programs, and the programs are online. And I will do an in-person session for a group that may want to do a group session or what have you on an individual basis, but the majority of my classes are online. They're from 9 to 12 weeks. We have special classes for trauma-informed leadership, where the leadership comes in, and oftentimes the leaders find that they have unresolved trauma that they didn't even know it was there. So we also have 12-week program for individuals that are facing trauma and want to recover, and then also for folks that are in the military that want to work through PTSD or some type of situation. We have a 12-week program for them, and then a 12-week program for those that have gone through domestic violence. So we do everything that I can to for the different segments. When people come and they say, well, I have this challenge. Okay, we don't have a class for you, but let's create it. I'm a creator.
Last thing that, I love talking to you. I love hearing about this subject because so many people deal with trauma in different ways. And I feel like you're a beacon of light to be able to help people in that regard. But let's shift gears a little bit. So I've always commented on this when I talk to you, but like, where do you get your hat style from? Because your hat game is on point, my friend.
Well, that came from my dad. My dad was a jazz blues man, and yeah, and so it's just me paying my homage and respect to him. Plus, he taught me music, so music, and so I was then laugh and say, no, I was my dad's girl son because I would sit there with him and do his crossword puzzles and everything. So yeah, yeah, he was my hero.
I love that. I love that. And it's kind of like you said, paying homage to your dad as you go along and well as well. Does music play a large role in trauma recovery?
Absolutely, absolutely, without a doubt. And I promise you, if you saw me in my car rolling on, I mean, I'm listening to some gospel, I'm listening to some jazz, but I'm dancing. I'm having a dance party at the lights because you have to be able to get it up and out, and even like soothing music to go to sleep by, just creating those safe spaces for ourselves because trauma also it divides you from taking care of yourself because you become a people pleaser seeking out that safety. So music and water and anything calming to calm you play a part in your recovery.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I think that's a wonderful place to kind of put a nice little bow on this. Dr. Liz, if people are interested in your services, how can they get a hold of you?
Then get a hold of me at info at Oasis Wellness CTRS.com is the email, and the website is Oasis Wellness CTRS.com.
Awesome. Dr. Liz, it's been an outstanding conversation. You're a phenomenal person, and I just appreciate your time so very much. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate you for the opportunity. Thank
Aw-
you.
Awesome. Well, once again, this is Ryan Van Ornum signing off for the Scaling Up Success podcast powered by Cynergists. Thank you so much for tuning in today and having a wonderful conversation to listen to with Dr. Liz Blanding. Thank you so much and have a wonderful time.